Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really fundamental topic, animal nutrition, how creatures, including us, actually process food.
It's a huge subject, really. Biochemistry, mechanics, anatomy. It's all in there.
And our mission, as always, is to find those key insights, let's call them shortcuts, to understanding this complex machinery, especially focusing on the human digestive system.
Right. We want to get beyond just listing parts. We want to grasp the why behind each step, from that first bite all the way down to, cells getting energy.
Okay, so maybe the best place to start is that fundamental split in the living world. You've got plants.
The producers, yeah. Photosynthesis, making their own food using sunlight. They're self-sufficient, basically. Autotrophs.
And then there's everyone else, the animals. Heterotrophs. We have to get our food from somewhere else.
Exactly. We eat the plants, or we eat the animals that eat the plants, or, well, both. And that necessity, that external sourcing, drives this whole complicated process we call nutrition.
And animal nutrition itself, we can kind of break it down into three main areas for today's dive.
Yeah, I think that works well. First, what does the animal actually need? That's the nutrient requirement. The building blocks, the fuel.
Second, how does it get that food into its body? The mode of intake.
Which varies wildly, as we'll see.
Yeah.
And third, what happens after it's inside? Utilization in the body. That's the digestion, absorption, the whole works.
And that digestion part is critical because, well, you can't just absorb a chunk of bread or steak directly into your cells, right?
Absolutely not. The food we eat, carbs, proteins, fats, they're these massive, complex molecules. They're way too big and chemically wrong to be used as they are.
So digestion is what? The breakdown crew.
Pretty much. It's the entire process of taking those complex substances and chemically chopping them up into much smaller, simpler, soluble molecules. Things like simple sugars, amino acids, fatty acids that the body can actually absorb and use. That's the whole point of this, surprisingly long tube running through us.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning then. Getting the food in. Ingestion.
Step one, just taking food into the body. And the methods are just incredibly diverse across the animal kingdom. It really shows evolution at work.
Like bees or hummingbirds.
Yeah.
Highly specialized.
Exactly. Sucking nectar. They have the perfect tools for that specific liquid food source. Then you have, say, a python.
Swallowing its prey whole, which always seems unbelievable.
It is. Their jaw structure, their metabolism, it's all built around that strategy. Massive intake, then a very long, slow breakdown.
Or think about filter feeders in the water.
Right, like some whales or clams, they just filter huge volumes of water and sieve out the tiny food particles. Simple, but effective if your food is suspended like that.
But you mentioned one earlier that kind of blows these away in terms of, well, weirdness. The starfish.
Ah, the starfish. Yes! We have to talk about this because it turns the whole process inside out, almost literally.
They eat things like clams and oysters, which are inside hard shells. How do they even get at them?
Well, that's the thing. The shell is tough. Calcium carbonate, difficult to crack. The starfish uses its tube feet to pull the shell open just a tiny bit, just a crack.
Okay, a little crack. Then what? Try to scrape the inside out.
No, this is the amazing part. It pushes its stomach out through its own mouth and into that crack in the shell.
Wait, its stomach leaves its body.
Yep. It averts its stomach, turns it inside out, kind of, and wraps it around the soft body of the mollusk inside the shell. It starts digesting the prey externally.
Wow. So it secretes digestive juices outside its main body.
Directly onto the food. It liquefies the clam or oyster right there inside its own shell. Then, once the food is partially digested, the starfish pulls its stomach back into its body, bringing the liquefied meal with it to finish the job internally.
That's incredible. Talk about specialized logistics.
It bypasses the need to break the shell completely. A very neat, if slightly gruesome, solution.
Okay, back to humans. We start in the mouth, the buccal cavity, and things kick off immediately, both mechanically and chemically.
Right. First, the mechanical bit. Chewing. Using our teeth. This isn't just about making food small enough to swallow.
It's about surface area, isn't it?
Exactly. You take a chunk of food and break it into tiny pieces. You massively increase the surface area that the digestive chemicals, the enzymes, can actually work on later. It's crucial for efficiency.
And we have different tools for this. Our teeth aren't all the same. They're set in sockets in the gums.
Specialized tools. Up front, you have the incisors. Sharp, flat edges, perfect for biting off pieces like little chisels.
Then the pointy ones.
The canines, next to the incisors. Good for piercing, tearing, maybe more important for our ancestors, but still there.
And the back.
The big ones. Premolars and molars. They have broad, bumpy surfaces designed for crushing and grinding the food into a paste. They do the heavy work.
And we get 2 sets in our lifetime. The first set, the milk teeth.
Yeah, they usually start falling out around age 6 to 8, give or take. Then the permanent teeth come in, and, well, that's the set you've got for good, hopefully.
Which brings us to protecting them. Tooth decay. It seems common, but it's actually a breakdown of this initial stage.
It really is. It's about bacteria in your mouth. We all have them. But some of them feed on leftover foods stuck on our teeth, especially sugars.
Like from sweets, chocolates, soft drinks.
Exactly. When these bacteria metabolize those sugars, they produce acids as a waste product. And those acids are strong enough to slowly dissolve the enamel, the hard outer layer of the tooth.
Causing cavities. So brushing and flossing is basically starving the bacteria.
Or at least cleaning away their food source and disrupting the acid production. Rinsing your mouth after eating sugary things helps too. It's about minimizing the time that acid sits on your teeth.
Okay, so while we're chewing, grinding, increasing that surface area, the chemical attack starts too, thanks to saliva.
Right. We have salivary glands in and around the mouth that produce saliva. It's mostly water, but it has important extras. Mucus, to lubricate the food and help it form a slippery ball called a bolus for swallowing.
And the first digestive enzyme.
Yes, salivary amylase. The name tells you what it does. Amylase refers to starch. Salivary amylase starts breaking down complex starch molecules into simpler sugars right there in your mouth.
So digestion literally starts the moment food enters.
Pretty much, even while you're still chewing.
And coordinating all this in the mouth is the tongue. It's more than just for tasting, right?
Oh, much more. It's this incredibly agile muscle. It manipulates the food, mixes it thoroughly with the saliva, making sure the amylase gets distributed. Then it shapes the food into that bolus and pushes it back for swallowing.
Plus, it has the taste buds.
Yeah, giving us information about the food. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it safe? That sensory input is vital. So mixing, pushing, tasting, the tongue is key.
Okay, food is chewed, mixed with saliva. Starch breakdown has begun. It's swallowed. Where does it go next?
It enters the main highway, the alimentary canal or digestive tract. This is the long, continuous tube that runs all the way through the body.
And it's surprisingly long.
It really is. Starts at the mouth, buccal cavity, then goes down the food pipe or esophagus into the stomach, then through the incredibly long small intestine into the large intestine, which ends in the rectum, and finally out the anus.
That's 6 main compartments.
6 main stops on the journey. And the whole system, the tract, plus those glands we mentioned, salivary glands, the big ones we'll get to, the liver and pancreas that makes up the digestive system.
Let's follow the food down the esophagus. That's not just gravity pulling it down, is it? You can swallow lying down, even upside down, technically.
Right. It's an active process called peristalsis. The muscular walls of the esophagus contract in a wave-like motion behind the food bolus, squeezing it downwards.
Like squeezing toothpaste out of a tube.
Exactly like that. And this peristalsis happens throughout the entire digestive tract, pushing the food along step by step.
And sometimes it goes the wrong way, like with vomiting.
Yeah, that's basically peristalsis in reverse. If the stomach rejects the food for some reason, toxins, irritation, the waves can push the contents back up and out.
Now, there's a tricky intersection near the top, where the food path crosses the air path to the lungs.
Uh-huh. The pharynx in the throat. Air goes down the windpipe, trachea. Food goes down the esophagus. They share a brief common passage.
So how do we stop food going down the wrong way into the windpipe? That seems like a design flaw.
Well, there's a safety mechanism, a small flap of tissue called the epiglottis. When you breathe, it's open, letting air into the windpipe. But when you swallow, it automatically flips down and covers the opening of the windpipe.
The little trap door.
Precisely. It directs the food safely down the esophagus.
And that's why choking happens, if that timing goes wrong.
Exactly. If you talk or laugh while swallowing, the epiglottis might not close properly. A piece of food can slip into the windpipe, blocking the airway. The body's reaction is coughing, gagging, hiccups, trying desperately to expel that foreign object.
A critical bit of biological engineering we rely on constantly without thinking about it.
Until it goes wrong, yeah.
Okay, assuming the epiglottis does its job, the food arrives in the stomach. This seems like a major processing hub.
It is. It's a J-shaped, thick-walled muscular bag. It's actually the widest part of the whole alimentary canal. It can expand quite a bit to hold food.
And it does more than just hold it right, it churns it.
Oh, yeah. The muscular walls contract vigorously, mixing the food with the stomach secretions, turning it into a semi-liquid paste called chyme. This churning also continues the mechanical breakdown.
And what are those secretions? You mentioned three key things.
Right. The inner lining of the stomach secretes three important substances. First, mucus.
For protection.
Exactly. It coats the stomach lining, creating a barrier, because the second secretion is incredibly powerful. Hydrochloric acid, HCl.
That sounds dangerous. Like battery acid almost. Why have that sloshing around?
It serves two main purposes. One, it kills a lot of the bacteria and other microbes that come in with our food. It sterilizes things to some extent.
Okay, a disinfectant. What's the second reason?
It creates a very acidic environment, like a pH of 1.5 to 3.5. And this intense acidity is absolutely necessary for the third secretion, the digestive juices, specifically the main protein-digesting enzyme, to work properly.
So the acid activates the enzyme.
Pretty much. The stomach secretes something called pepsinogen, which is inactive, but when it mixes with the hydrochloric acid, the acid changes its shape and turns it into its active form, pepsin.
And pepsin attacks proteins.
Yes. Pepsin starts breaking down the long chains of proteins into shorter chains called peptides. It's the beginning of protein digestion.
So you need all three working together. Mucus protects the wall, acid kills germs and activates pepsinogen, and pepsin starts chopping up proteins.
It's a very finely tuned, quite aggressive environment. If the mucus layer breaks down, the acid and pepsin can actually start digesting the stomach wall itself, leading to ulcers.
Wow. And how did we figure all this out? It's not like you can just easily look inside a working stomach.
Well, actually, there's this incredible historical accident that gave science a literal window into the stomach. The story of Alexis St. Martin.
Oh, right. The guy who got shot.
Yeah, back in 1822, he was accidentally shot with a shotgun at close range. The wound went through his ribs and into his stomach. A doctor named William Beaumont saved his life miraculously.
But the wound didn't heal perfectly.
No, it healed in a way that left a permanent hole, a fistula, directly from the outside into his stomach. Dr. Beaumont could literally look inside St. Martin's stomach.
That's ethically tricky, but scientifically amazing.
Beaumont realized the unique opportunity. For years, he conducted experiments. He'd tie bits of food to a string, poke them through the hole into the stomach, and pull them out later to see what happened.
What did he find?
He confirmed things that were only theories before. He saw the stomach walls actively churning and mixing the food. He collected the stomach juices that clear fluid and proved in vitro outside the body that they could digest food. He showed digestion was a chemical process.
And he learned something about the timing, too, didn't he?
Yes, crucially. He observed that the stomach held onto the food, churning and digesting it, and only released the resulting chyme into the next section, the small intestine, after that stage of digestion was complete. It showed the stomach acted like a controlled valve.
A gatekeeper, ensuring the next stage gets properly prepared material.
Exactly. His observations were fundamental to our understanding.
Okay, so the chyme leaves the stomach. Where does it go?
Into the longest part of the journey, the small intestine.
How long are we talking?
Coiled up tightly in your abdomen, but if you stretched it out, it's about 7.5 meters long, around 25 feet. It's incredible.
Wow. And this is where the main action happens. Digestion finishes, absorption starts.
Precisely. This is the grand central station of digestion and absorption. And it doesn't work alone. It gets critical help from two major accessory glands that dump their secretions right into the very first part of the small intestine, the duodenum.
The liver and the pancreas. Let's start with the liver.
Okay, the liver. It's the largest gland in the body, up on the upper right side of your abdomen.
Yeah.
Reddish-brown color. It does hundreds of things, but for digestion, its key product is bile juice.
Which isn't stored in the liver itself.
No, the liver makes it continuously, but it gets stored and concentrated in a small organ nestled underneath it called the gallbladder. The gallbladder releases the bile into the small intestine when needed.
And what does bile actually do?
Its main job is dealing with fats. Fats arrive from the stomach as large globules, and they don't mix with water, which makes it hard for enzymes to attack them. Bile contains bile salts that act like detergents.
They break up the fat.
Exactly. They emulsify the fat, break down the large droplets into thousands of tiny little droplets. This massively increases the surface area, allowing the fat-digesting enzymes to work much more efficiently.
So bile doesn't digest fat itself, it just prepares it for digestion.
Correct. It's an emulsifier. Crucial step.
Okay, gland number 2, helping the small intestine. The pancreas.
The pancreas. It's located just behind and below the stomach. It's a powerhouse. It produces pancreatic juice, which contains a whole cocktail of potent digestive enzymes.
For everything. Carbs, fats, proteins.
Yep. It's got enzymes to continue breaking down carbohydrates, like pancreatic amylase, enzymes to break down fats, lipase, and enzymes to continue breaking down proteins, like trypsin. It covers all the bases.
And this pancreatic juice, along with the bile, gets squirted into the duodenum, that first section of the small intestine.
Right where the chyme is coming out of the stomach. And the pancreatic juice also contains bicarbonate, which is important because it neutralizes the strong stomach acid. The enzymes in the small intestine need a neutral or slightly alkaline environment to work, not acidic.
So bile emulsifies fats, pancreatic juice neutralizes acid, and provides enzymes for carbs, fats, and proteins. Is that it for digestion?
Almost. There's one more player. The walls of the small intestine itself also produce digestive enzymes, found in what's called the intestinal juice.
The final cleanup, true.
Kind of. These enzymes, often located right on the surface cells, perform the very last steps of breakdown. They take the intermediate products and snip them into the final absorbable units.
So after all this action, saliva, stomach acid, pepsin, bile, pancreatic juice, intestinal juice,
Yeah.
what are we left with? What are those final units?
Okay, the end products, ready for absorption, are complex carbohydrates have been broken down into simple sugars, mostly glucose. Fats, lipids, are broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. Proteins are broken down into their individual building blocks, amino acids.
Simple molecules now, small enough to pass into the body. Which brings us to absorption.
Yes. All this digestion is useless unless these nutrients get out of the intestine and into the bloodstream. That's absorption. And it happens primarily along the massive length of the small intestine.
How does the intestine manage such a huge absorption task efficiently?
Through incredible structural adaptation. Its inner surface isn't smooth. It's lined with millions of tiny finger-like projections called villi.
Fingers sticking into the intestinal space.
Exactly. And each of those villi is in turn covered in even tinier projections called microvilli on their surface cells. It's like folds upon folds upon folds.
Creating a huge surface area.
Absolutely massive. If you could flatten out the inner lining of the human small intestine, villi and all, it's estimated it would cover the area of a tennis court.
Wow. All packed inside us. And that's where the nutrients cross over.
Yes. Each villus contains a dense network of tiny blood capillaries in a lymphatic vessel called a lacteal. The simple sugars, glucose, and amino acids pass through the cells lining the villus and enter directly into the blood capillaries.
And the fats, fatty acids and glycerol.
They took a slightly different route. They enter the villus cells, where they are often reassembled into fats, packaged into special particles called chylomicrons, and then they enter the lacteal, the lymph vessel.
Why the different route for fats?
Because they aren't as water-soluble. The lymphatic system provides an alternative transport network that eventually connects back to the bloodstream, but it bypasses the initial direct route to the liver that sugars and amino acids take.
Okay, so nutrients are absorbed into blood or lymph.
Right.
What happens next? Where do they go?
They are transported via the blood and lymph to all the different cells and organs throughout the body. And this is where assimilation occurs.
Assimilation meaning using the nutrients.
Exactly. The cells take up these simple building blocks, glucose, fatty acids, amino acids, and use them for whatever the body needs. Building new proteins for muscle or enzymes, constructing cell membranes from fats, repairing tissues.
And crucially for energy.
Absolutely. That's perhaps the most critical use. Inside the cells, glucose primarily is broken down further in a process called cellular respiration. It reacts with oxygen.
The oxygen we breathe in.
Right. And this reaction releases energy, which the cell captures in a molecule called ATP. It also produces carbon dioxide, which we breathe out, and water.
So ATP is the actual fuel the cells run on.
It's the universal energy currency of the cell. Everything the body does, moving, thinking, growing, is powered by the energy released from breaking down that glucose, which ultimately came from the food we ate and digested.
It's quite a journey from a sandwich to cellular energy.
It really is a complex, highly efficient supply chain.
Okay, we've digested, absorbed, assimilated. But not everything we eat gets broken down and used, right? What about the leftovers?
Correct. Undigested material, mostly fiber, like cellulose from plants, which humans can't digest, plus water, some salts, and sluck-off cells from the intestinal lining, passes from the small intestine into the large intestine.
Which is different from the small intestine.
Yeah, it's wider but much shorter, only about 1.5 meters or 5 feet long. It essentially frames the coiled small intestine.
If digestion and absorption of nutrients are basically done, what's the main job of the large intestine?
Its primary function is to absorb water from the remaining indigestible food matter. It reclaims water back into the body. It also absorbs some electrolytes, some salts.
So it's mainly about water balance and consolidating waste.
Exactly. As water is absorbed, the waste material becomes more solid. It moves into the final section, the rectum, where it's stored as semi-solid feces.
And the final step.
Digestion. The elimination of these feces from the body through the anus, that completes the passage.
That focus on water absorption in the large intestine directly connects to a common health issue: diarrhea.
Yes. Diarrhea is when you pass watery stools frequently. It can be caused by infections, food poisoning, indigestion. Basically, something irritates the intestines and disrupts normal function.
And the danger isn't just inconvenience, it's the fluid loss.
That's the main danger, especially severe in infants and young children. The large intestine isn't absorbing water properly, or maybe the small intestine is secreting too much fluid. You lose large amounts of water and essential salts, electrolytes, very quickly.
Leading to dehydration.
Severe dehydration and electrolyte imbalance, which can be life-threatening if not treated.
Which is why oral rehydration solution, ORS, is so important.
Absolutely vital. It's often the first line of treatment. ORS isn't just water. It's a carefully balanced solution of water, sugar, glucose, and salts, like sodium and potassium.
Why the sugar and salt together?
Because in the small intestine, the absorption of sodium is actively coupled to the absorption of glucose. When you provide both, the intestine can pull them in together, and water follows passively. It's a way to trick the body into rehydrating itself efficiently, even when diarrhea is occurring. Simple, but incredibly effective.
Okay, let's shift gears now from the standard human model and look at some specialized systems, like grass eaters, ruminants, cows, sheep, goats.
Right. You often see them just chewing, even when they haven't taken a bite of grass for a while.
Chewing their cud. What's actually happening there?
Well, their diet is grass, which is packed with cellulose, a very tough carbohydrate that most animals, including humans, cannot digest. We lack the enzyme.
So how do they manage?
They have a radically different stomach setup. It has 4 compartments. When they first eat grass, they swallow it quickly with minimal chewing, and it goes into the largest compartment, the rumen.
The rumen's like a big fermentation vat.
Exactly. It's full of billions upon billions of symbiotic bacteria and other microbes. These microbes possess the enzymes to break down cellulose. The grass ferments in the rumen, getting partially digested by the microbes. This partially digested stuff is the cud.
And then they bring it back up.
Later, when the animal is resting, small lumps of this cud are regurgitated back into the mouth. Now the animal chews it thoroughly, that's rumination, or chewing the cud. This breaks down the plant fibers physically and mixes it well. Then they swallow it again, and it passes through the other stomach compartments for further digestion and absorption.
So they're basically outsourcing the cellulose digestion to microbes living inside them.
Precisely. Humans don't have that microbial setup in the right place or with the right capabilities to handle significant cellulose.
Are all herbivores ruminants? What about horses or rabbits?
No, they aren't ruminants. They have a different strategy. They also have microbes to digest cellulose, but the fermentation happens after the stomach and small intestine, primarily in a large pouch called the cecum, which is located where the small and large intestines meet.
So fermentation happens further down the line for them.
Right. It's a different anatomical solution to the same dietary problem of digesting cellulose. Still relies on symbiotic microbes.
Okay, from the complexity of a 4-chambered stomach, let's go to the absolute simplest case, a single-celled organism, like an amoeba. How does it handle nutrition?
The amoeba is fascinating because it shows the core processes in their most basic form. It's just one cell living in pond water, constantly changing shape.
No mouth, no stomach, obviously. How does it eat?
When it encounters a tiny food particle, it extends temporary projections of its cell body around the particle. These are called pseudopodia, meaning false feet.
So it flows around the food?
Yes. It engulfs the food particle, trapping it inside a small bubble or sac within the cell. This bubble is called a food vacuole. That's ingestion for amoeba.
And digestion happens inside that bubble.
Exactly. Digestive enzymes are secreted from the cytoplasm into the food vacuole. They break down the food inside the vacuole. The digested simple nutrients then just diffuse out of the vacuole into the main body of the cell, the cytoplasm, where they're used for energy, growth, maintenance, assimilation.
And waste?
The undigested waste stays in the vacuole. The vacuole eventually moves to the cell surface and fuses with the cell membrane, releasing the waste products outside the cell. Digestion.
So even in this microscopic single cell,
Yeah.
you see all the fundamental steps.
You do. Ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, digestion. The basic logic is the same, whether it's an amoeba or a complex mammal. The machinery is vastly different, but the core nutritional processes are universal.
That's a great way to tie it all together. We've gone from chewing in saliva, down the esophagus, through the acid bath of the stomach, the enzyme soup, and huge surface area of the small intestine, water recovery in the large intestine, and finally out.
And it might be useful to just quickly list those 5 key stages again, the pillars of nutrition that apply across the board. 1, ingestion, taking food in. 2, digestion, breaking complex food down chemically. 3, absorption, getting the simple nutrients into the body fluids. 4, assimilation, using those nutrients for building and energy. And 5, digestion, getting rid of the undigestible waste.
It really is an incredible nonstop factory, converting stuff from the outside world into fuel and building materials for the body, turning complex carbs, fats, and proteins into those essential simple units: glucose, fatty acids, glycerol, and amino acids.
A truly remarkable biological system. And thinking about how different foods interact with this system leads to maybe one last interesting point to consider, tying back to fats and digestion.
Okay, leave us with a final thought.
Well, we talked about how bile is needed to emulsify fats, right? To break down large fat globules so enzymes can work. Now, did you know that the fat globules naturally present in, say, goat's milk are much, much smaller on average than the fat globules in cow's milk?
Really, just structurally smaller.
Yeah. Because they start out smaller, they require less work from the bile to be emulsified effectively. This makes the fats in goat's milk inherently easier for the human digestive system to break down and absorb compared to cow's milk.
Huh. So a subtle difference in the food structure changes the digestive workload.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other subtle differences in the composition or structure of our foods might be quietly making digestion easier or harder for this complex system we've just explored?
That is definitely food for thought. A great place to end our deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.